So I personally like to thank Sanjana Kapoor for inviting me while she was in Cochin to see the third edition of the Kochi Muziris Biennale, which was curated by Sudarshan Shetty. I think she's in fact somebody who's seen all the editions very carefully, and she's somebody who's one of our biggest supporters, I think, who has been kind of initiating projects also in Bombay, as you all know. I think she's one of our biggest inspirations. In fact, I mean, she's also very close to some of our other members like Bose and many others. And I would like to kind of congratulate her for being one of the art activists in the city, like who's initiated many of the projects. And I also would like to thank Edgar and some of the other members of Junoon and also the Mumbai Local for inviting or coordinating all the things which is to be done towards an event like this. And also I'm very happy to see one of our important person, like one also been working with the Kochi Muziris Bienalle, has been the curator of our culture programs, which was in 2012 and the 14th edition. Kelly Ramachandran is here. I'm very happy to see him here, and also somebody who is very much associated with Junoon, as I know. And I'm sure the conversations which we'll have, Kelly will be a good contributor into the dialogues. And also Neha is here, Neha Arora, who's been working very closely with the programming of Kochi this year. So it will be, I'm looking forward to actually having a very good conversation with all of you, because the Biennale is all about learning and maybe adding your suggestions and advices into the next edition, which we are working on right now, which will be curated by Anita Dubey, one of the renowned artists. So I'm sure some of you might not have seen the Biennale. So I thought to just bring everybody closer to maybe into the conversation. I'll first start with showing a film, which is approximately 10 minutes, which will give you some glimpses into all the 3 editions which happened in Cochin. So physically you will be able to kind of enjoy quite a lot from that. So after that, maybe I'll just take up
This being India, with such a complex, layered, rich, profound history and culture of art, contemporary art and 20th century art, and this being the first biennial, you can imagine the amount of energy that we have in terms of expectations, the artists and the community, and internationally there exists. So this is what this biennial is doing, and it's been wonderful to be here.
To me, art and culture is such an important part of one's life. To me, it gives me roots, something to hang on to, latch on to. And at times, we don't pay enough attention to it. In this whole sort of focus on growth and economy, I think we have lost a little bit of track in terms of focus on our art and culture.
The 2014 edition of the Biennale isn't so much a reflection on Cochin, it's a reflection from Cochin.
What's so interesting, I think, is the location.
I see Kochi offering a new important platform to rethink the relationship between the South and the South.
Bienalle കണ്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ വിഷ്വലി നിങ്ങൾ കണ്ടംപററി അല്ല.
The most amazing thing about the Kochi Muzirish Biennale is this: after the first edition, the second edition, that imagine the local public, the general public, which I see, whenever I kind of move around in various venues, the common people, they come. They are not necessarily from art background.
Forming in the people of an eye is been indirectly taken from an old Vedic belief, in fact from Rig Veda, that when a sage opens his eye to the world, he assimilates all the multiplicity of the world with this one look at the world.
It's been an extraordinary and intense experience. Biennale that doesn't feel like it has a relationship to a museum in the same way as other biennales do. It feels very rooted in its architectural vernacular context, and there's a wonderful democracy to that.
I'm very happy to see an artist biennale. It is now becoming clear to me why we have an artist biennale, and I think an artist as curator is very different from a curator, and I see that in this biennale because I really feel the different aspects to Sudarshan's thinking in the works that he selected.
What's particularly impressive is the balance between the local and the regional and the international, and also the way the Biennale is able to bring in all types of audiences, from international art people to very local audiences.
I see that the experimentation in every area that one would like to have is being demonstrated. This is the ideal way to conserve heritage. Ideal way to find thousands of people coming here and witnessing the new, age-old and extremely futuristic. And I think this kind of marriage makes this site very memorable, important, significant.
One of the threats in this biennial is, of course, there are many works with sound. You can read many words, but you can also hear many sounds. And I wonder why that is. Maybe we are living in an age of the dictatorship of the visual, that there is an invitation to speak again, to speak with one another. And I think that's the strength of the Kochi Biennial, that it's a way of conversation, not only among the artists, not only the artists with Kochi and with the curator, but also a conversation of the public.
A huge social agenda as well as an artistic one. I think it's very important because it's a risk. It's an economic risk, and it's a if you like, a social and aesthetic risk. So, but we have to encourage that because we want creative citizens, not passive ones.
As far as art scene is concerned, I think Kochi Muziris Biennale is the finest example of what we have produced in the last decade. I don't think there is any comparable event, both in terms of content as well as in terms of the way in which it is organized.
double click. Okay. Yeah, actually, we can directly go into a kind of conversation because I think the film was, covering almost all aspects of the project. But I thought, maybe having an audience like this, especially people who are in Bombay, unlike many of the audiences I've been personally interacting in the last 7-8 years in Cochin and other parts of India, and also in abroad in forums and all. I have a special love for the Mumbai audience because this is a city where I came to study art. I came here in 1992, the year which has crucially influenced me in my life because many reasons. This is a city when I came that was undergoing a big change because 92 was the year the Babri Masjid demolition happened. I came from a very secular, a very different kind of a background, as you all know, from Kerala, and came with a lot of aspirations. Mumbai was a city for me with a lot of hope, very cosmopolitan, and I was actually looking forward to kind of learning much more, understanding many aspects of life, and I actually came here to study textile design. I think I joined JJ School of Art to study textile, but that was the year, as I said, the Babri Masjid demolition happens, the whole the political premise changes. I lost, I think by 1993, I lost my interest in textile design, and I moved very much closer to painting. I think, in fact, I completed my painting in my bachelor's and master's I did in painting. But some of the things which I learned in the early years has impacted me a lot. Also influenced me in my thinking because Bombay is the city which taught me actually about how to look at politics and how to look at religion, how to look at migration, displacement, many things that which we deal in a day-to-day life. I think it is an honor. In fact, I think to speak to an audience, from the city, and also the Biennale has got a very strong connection with the city. I think that is to be emphasized because the first discussion about doing a Biennale in Cochin happened in Borivali, in Bombay. With the then Culture Minister of Kerala, Mr. M.A. Baby, and also the first, the founders of the Biennale, as me and Bose been students of JJ School of Art. We were the founders, and at the same time we curated the first edition. So, and also it was handed over to Jitish Kallat, another artist and a student from JJ School of Art. Again, it was handed over to one of the most celebrated artists of our time, Sudarshan Shetty, again from JJ, and again from Bombay. So it's I think it's a city which has contributed a lot in making Kochi Biennale possible, and also very rich, because I think I always feel that when Mumbai is a city, for me, I can speak for all four of us, Sudarshan, Bose and Jitish, because it reflects in many of our works that how the city has influenced, and the city has given us confidence in making art, and in fact the contribution which is followed with such kind of experience has reflected very much in the making of the Biennale. So I think in fact in the Mumbai Local, I think Bienalle has that Mumbai Local story to kind of to start with, I think. So another some of the important aspects which I thought I should be touching, not just talking about what Kochi did, I think I'm much more interested in a point of view today to discuss with you in a time like this. I mean, what kind of cultural space or community we are living in today. And Kochi, as you all know, it is known for an artist-initiated project, and it is known as a project which has changed the way things were articulated in many ways. So I actually want to kind of go through or put light on, or maybe to kind of celebrate in maybe along with you, some of the important aspects of Indian art. I think how why Kochi is an artist-initiated project, and how it is a continuation of many important contributions especially in Indian history. I always feel that starting from a pre-independent India, if you want to kind of really look at some of the important sites in Indian history, starting from the Bengali school, how it contributed in shaping up a certain kind of traditional Indian language, which as I think maybe has contributed in many levels, starting from creating an institution which in fact had two different sites like in Calcutta and also Shantiniketan, how it influenced the entire South Asia. From the inception itself, it has hugely influenced the way India was thinking. It was also at the time of the freedom movement, and how it was slowly contributing into the idea of the nation building. So I'm just citing that how some of our artists have started contributing in a country like India, because in India I think it's very difficult for artists to survive, and to become an artist itself is very, very difficult. I'm sure it is to do with almost all the discipline. Starting from an auto rickshaw driver to anybody who does business, it is tough. But when it comes to the cultural disciplines, you can see that it is a fight. It's whether it's theatre, whether it is cinema, whether it's visual art or writing, it becomes a kind of fight. So in that context, it is very interesting to kind of look at some of these important contributions. And I also want to kind of touch upon something which is in today's time, which is in conversation, is about Indian Constitution. And I also want to see that how even in Indian Constitution, an amazing contribution of Bengali school. For example, Nandalal Bose was somebody who was assigned to design the Indian Constitution, and his entire team was working, including the calligraphic work which happened in Delhi, or all the pages which was designed. So the amount of interest which was, or a respect which was given to the art community from maybe an Nehruvian, thinking was, fascinating to kind of look at. I think I actually like to kind of cherish these moments, because most of these things have come from artists. I think one is, as I said, the Bengali school, and it follows with 1943, one of the year which was at the time the Second World War was happening, the Bengal famine was happening. You have, amazing artists in that era. When people went into Bangladesh, like for example, Zainul Abidin and many important other political intervention artists, including the other, the Bengali school followers. But it's interesting to see that, the group, some of the groups like, Calcutta group, which was, again, a coming together of artists. I think, the way it contributed in looking at the social space, it is something again, very fascinating to see. And other important movements, like immediately the India got freedom, like 1947, we had the Mumbai, the Bombay Progressive Group. The way it again came together, again artists. And you go into different directions. You go to Baroda, there is a Baroda group. Then you go to different states. You go to Chennai. Everywhere you have seen in Indian context, artists have realized much more in advance that they have to actually come together to kind of survive and sustain, or to make some kind of a momentum in a place like India. But I would see, a Nehruvian government. I mean, how it contributed is also something has to be told from a state perspective. I mean, how a nation, as it's important to kind of maybe following these artist movements and artistic intervention to see, the ideation of Indian, the academies, that whether it's Lalitkala Academy or Sahitya Academy or the Sangeet Nataka Academies. In 1954, the Nehruvian government again, under we had a very important education minister of that time, like Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He initiated these academies. And it's very interesting to kind of look at these junctions, like at the time where artists were also contributing into the nation building. The state also thought with with a tendency to kind of improve or celebrate the diversity of the nation. So I'm just trying to kind of connect. There is one story that we can associate with, like the way the artists contributed from from all across the nation in the area of nation building or art making, the way they responded to international art. For example, Mumbai Progressive, the progress, the group of the Bombay Progressives actually thought international art belongs to them. I mean, the way they followed all kinds of idioms which is practiced all across the world. They never felt that they are following any kind of isms or anything, but they felt that the world belongs to them. So that kind of intervention was happening. And at the same time, a Nehruvian government taking very interesting lead in instituting things like this. And 1954 was a crucial year because Lalitkala Academy academies were began, that particular year. In fact, it's very interesting to see who was the first, the chairperson of the Sahitya Academies. It was Nehru himself. I mean, we had a prime minister who was taking responsibility of such kind of a huge responsibility. And I actually want to quote, just put it here, a very interesting quote from Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad when he was doing this inaugural thing of these academies. He said a very fascinating thing which is very relevant when we look at today's time. He said, the academy must work to preserve the glorious traditions of the past and enrich them by the work of our modern artists. I think there was, because he could see that there is already a kind of a momentum which is happening in the air. There are art happening all across and he's recognizing it. And it must also seek to improve standards and refine public taste. I think it's a classic statement. That how much a minister of that time, you can see that he had a very progressive, very cosmopolitan individual along with him as a leader in Nehru. But at the same time, you can see the kind of classic understanding about the refinement. Somebody is talking about refining the taste of people. So it was one of the important decisions because the whole role of academies was to kind of unify the entire nation, because it had slowly started creating different kind of centers wherever in 1954 the unification had happened. For example, Kerala joins very later, because it only came into existence in 1956. Tamil Nadu was very reluctant and many states didn't even participate. I think in today's context, if you really look at Lalitkala academies, there are only few states which functions very well. But it all began that time. And another important jump, maybe we can even talk about the contribution which is happening from the state was like the building the infrastructure, because in 1954 itself, Nehruvian government was insisting on building infrastructure through the, maybe the spreading of the academies. But at the same time, they took an important decision to start National Gallery of Modern Art in Delhi. 1954 was again another crucial year. And it's actually a big statement by the government again that we are there to kind of build these kind of institutions. And they had amazing people, who were leading these kind of institutions. They started with a very big sculpture exhibition which had some of the most important sculptures of our time. For example, to take some names is like Devi Prasad Roy Chowdhury, Ramkinkar Bey, Shanku Chowdhury. They were a part of that, the first exhibition which happened. And the curator was also like Herman Goetz, who was, I think he was also very much involved in many of other institution building which was also happening across, even in Baroda, he was involved in many other things. So it's very interesting to kind of look at the kind of contributions which was growing in the air in the nation. And another jump, if you make that, after 12 years, India took again another important decision in the world, because India started the first triennial. After the Venice Biennale and also the Sao Paulo in the second one was like 1956. Then Havana and all those things were happening. But India took a major decision to start a triennial. And the best thing about that particular triennial was it was an open invitation to any countries in the world. I think the way the initial few editions were designed under the leadership of Mulk Raj Anand and many other people who were involved at that time, it was again a kind of crucial contribution in the building of the art structures in India. I think, in fact, the way the triennial was running, and the triennial was the only forum which was in South Asia with that kind of a caliber, which brought in international art practices. If you really look at the similarities between 1954 and 68, the manifesto had many similarities because it was also to improve, the infrastructure, the many possibilities. There's another interesting line is like introduce international art practices to local audience. That was again another mission of the Biennale. And later, as you have seen that, it slowly declines, and there is an important reason to that. I'll come to that point, little later, because I just want to kind of connect the same kind of Biennale thinking with another attempt which was made in 2005 when the Biennale died. Vivan Sundaram, Geeta Kapoor and many other people wanted to kind of initiate, and it never happened. In fact, globally there was an image among the art community that India is only interested in talking, they are not interested in making anything. But it has, we need to kind of connect and see, that particular aspect. And another important thing which I want to emphasize, which again connects to, why Biennale is an artist-initiated project. You should look at how much importance some of our artists gave for art education, starting from, Shantiniketan to Baroda, even Palsikar, and many Indian art institutions also were contributing, and I would reassert by saying that artists' contribution was very key in all these areas, whether it's Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh, anybody you take, Nandalal Bose again, for instance. So these are like, some of the, the social realities. I'm just, trying to kind of, put, maybe a kind of a location in everybody's mind that, what was actually, happening in front of us in terms of art, in terms of contributions, what kind of approaches were happening. So it is also important to kind of look at in today's context, because we are talking about the Biennale which happens in Kerala, in Cochin. What was happening in Kerala? It's maybe to kind of to see a kind of a parallel. Kerala was always a state which, artists have migrated out, starting from Raja Ravi Verma to KCS Panikkar to n number of artists who are practicing in today's context. You will see in all cities that the artists don't work in Kerala. It has been a kind of a trend because one is the lack of infrastructure, there is no patronage, there is no system in place, there are no proper art education for higher studies. So everybody just leaves after BFA, then settles down. So it became a trend. You will also see that in the trend in social life, because Kerala became, since last 50 years, one of the states which receives lots of remittance economy. and it survives on that. I mean, it became kind of a pattern. So that, I think, social reality also influenced artists. I mean, artists also went out and they created their own practices. And it also, with the younger group, like when radical movement which is happening, it also had a tendency later to go out of the state. I mean, though it did many of their exercises and emphasizes in Kerala, though it closed its chapter in Kerala by some of the tragic events. But you will see that it is also stepping out of Kerala and having their associations in Baroda and many other senior artists. But in Biennale's context, it is very interesting to see a return of a migrant. I mean, for example, me and Bose, as being people also left or followed the same kind of a story, but it goes back. The idea conceived. And it also becomes a story that, with an idea, it goes back with an argument that it will build infrastructure. It will find its own stories. It is finding a location. It's important to kind of see these connections when we are trying to kind of, connect the dots. And I also like to say another important aspect which happened in contemporary Kerala is also the migration which is happening into the state from all across the country. Though when Kerala was producing this, the Malayalis who are, maybe well educated, going all across the world, especially to Middle East and other states, Kerala since last 10 years became a state that which accepting migrants from, the Bengal to northeast to all these Bihar, and there are economic studies which says that it is the money which is going out of Kerala is higher than the remittance economy which Kerala was receiving since many years. So it's also becoming a state which is producing a lot of remittance economy at the same time producing a lot of labor, because it's they are not situated in urban centers. They are not staying in Cochin. They are staying in remote places. They are doing fishing. I mean, the Bengalis coming in doing fishing in Kerala. So this kind of a spread, which also started changing a social fabric. I would say that the return of the Biennale could also happen because the social fabric of Kerala was also slowly changing, because it was accepting a different kind of a discourse or a dialogue, or a new kind of engagement was also possible. From an artist's point of view, an artist who left around 20-25 years before, I could see a Kerala which has also changed, a big time, and it was also interested in receiving, new discourses, and some of the other points also to be considered when we are talking about Kochi and why Biennale at this point of time is how much contribution the nation makes into art and culture. What is our annual allocation in our national budget? That's also something has to be looked at. We spend only, I think, 0.13%, 2,600 crores for all our cultural institutions, which comes under the government review, like whether it is museums, cultural institutions, academies. We spend only that much money. In comparison, we are spending 2.6 lakh crores on defense. So look at that, the interest which we are showing towards cultural projects. It has hugely affected our institutions, because our institutions getting money only to run. They don't get money to program. So that's the biggest drawback, because institutions, they just run just like that. They will have an annual program which was designed like maybe 10-15 years ago, and they just keep doing it. If it's a museum, they'll be having some collections and they sell a ticket, and it just runs like that. They have no new programming. Baudaji Lad and all is like, maybe exceptions in today's times. And also another point which I want to make, again, why Biennale and what is the relevance of the Biennale in today's context is, we are seeing a lot of capturing of institutions and academies in front of us. So it's interesting to maybe put all these things together now to reach at a point of view, because from the post-independence, if you really look at the collective effort from artists and other kind of thinkers, it has always been part of nation building. The contributions have actually come from there. It emphasized the idea of diversity. It spoke about the plurality of the nation. Many efforts have been made, but you reach at a stage almost in 92, for instance. I also feel like some kind of a very passionate interest in that year, because that's the year I also came to Bombay. The rise of fundamentalism. At the same time, slowly the interest in economy. The people have started generating a lot of interest in economy. Liberalization happens, but you see a contrast. The India was building its own kind of unified approach in attending to each and every individual. You see from 92 onwards, a huge attempt of polarization happens, social polarization, religious conflict starts happening. Then you see a certain kind of a decline in interest, especially among artists, in coming together. They all became individuals. I don't know, we can point out artist groups has not emerged after 92. Everybody literally got disintegrated. There was no movements happening in the country. And you will see in the economic area, the galleries started taking over, because though polarization is happening, though religious fundamentalism happening, there is a lot of chaos happening in the country, there was some kind of an economic boom coming in. The money was there, and the galleries started flourishing. You will see historians, art historians turning curators. They became like curators. They became facilitators for the galleries to kind of do interesting shows. They all became part of a kind of a certain system which was sustaining a kind of an economic structure. And if you really look at today, it's very interesting, because the moderns which we spoke about, they still sustain the art market. They are the people who are handing or moving from one collector to the other and sustaining the auction market or in the art market. So that's been the kind of power of the market, and that's one reason in 2005, though they could manage big conference to discuss a biennial, it never happened because that collective energy was not happening. So that is also maybe an important point to really look at, why biennial. So I'm just trying to kind of connect all these points. That what was the climate? What kind of problems we were actually, what were the realities? At the same time, when I was talking about, the capturing the academies and institutions, NGMA was trying to kind of get a director for many years. It is not a recent phenomenon that, institution capturing is happening. But you will see a reluctance among artists to be part of a state-run system. So nobody was actually going and becoming a better director and running an institution which will benefit the country or the artist community. I think it was struggling to get, best options. So that was also one of the realities. People were not interested in state-run systems. People were not interested in institutions which was run by, even, the central governments, or it's a smaller states all across. I also feel that, there are many reasons to it. You can see, start accumulating reasons one after the other. So that became, another reality for, having a vacuum, that because, see, all these establishments are there are galleries running, money is there, art is happening, but there was no alternate space, or, there was not a project which we could claim that, which is something creating an ecosystem, which is to some extent experimental, which is creating very important projects, which is much needed. So I think I have made enough pointers for you all to kind of think. What kind of social fabric or in a climate we were all in, or me or Bose or like the culture minister or M.A. Baby or Jyoti Basu were in, when we were meeting in Bombay in 2010, because that's the kind of reality, because the people are not coming together. So it's interesting, a minister walks in, and tells us like, he's not just a minister who's walking in. I mean, he's somebody who's got a certain kind of history of a kind of communist background. He also follows a certain history of Kerala, which has contributed a lot in the culture. But Kerala is very much, famous for its whole history of contribution come from the social reformers, the communist history, the contribution in education. And an important aspect is also the history of social action. How it always became a society which is very argumentative. The political action was. So he actually comes from that kind of a background, which also being a communist government as supporting cultural initiative, because it's a state which has initiated one of the best film festivals which happens in India. There is theatre festival which happens in Thrissur, music festivals. But something which Kerala always lacked in relationship with what was happening from the Ravi Verma time was that there was no infrastructure for art. There was no interest among people to really engage with visual art. So his question was from that perspective. And he asked us a very important question. What can we do together to change the cultural landscape of Kerala by introducing visual art? So that was his question. So the answer which we gave was, let's do a biennale. And the Biennale was not just an art exhibition we were thinking from the beginning. It has to be located in Kochi. Kochi being, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in Kerala. And it has got a very interesting past to say, which has got a very, diverse community culture. Kochi has got more than 30 communities living together. 16 languages are spoken in a 4-kilometer square. So it was identified from the beginning itself as a city which can accommodate a biennale, because the story about the biennale became also that. I mean, it became contained in telling a certain kind of a narrative which contributes into a larger India today, because we need to speak about diversity, we need to talk about multiculturalism, we need to think about a history of Muziris, which is more than 3,000 years. So we could actually kind of share all these thoughts with him and say that, let's do a biennale. In fact, our mission statement which we created reflects all these kind of aspects. What should be the ingredients? How should we look at global art? How should we look at 3,000 years of history, and how should we accommodate? What was the important things about like the pre-enlightenment era, which pre-enlightenment era, which is a conscious reality when you talk about Muziris or Kochi. So these things were also kind of accommodated from the beginning, because in our one of the first lines which I can actually read it out, that Kochi Muziris Bienalle seeks to invoke the historical cosmopolitan legacy of modern metropolis Kochi. Cosmopolitanism is a badge of honor for the people who live in a city like Kochi, and its mythical predecessor, the ancient port Muziris. That's been one of the maybe unlike many other art projects internationally, we gave emphasis to excavation as a metaphor. Excavation was coming in as one of the major metaphor, because it was an important project which was initiated by the government of Kerala at that time. So I just want to, maybe before going into the slides, where also, I don't want to kind of talk much about art in detail. I actually want to say a few things about, what actually the Biennale does internationally. I'm not talking about Kochi. Kochi is a unique site. It's getting celebrated. It is becoming a people's biennale. But if you really research on something which we did very late, if you really look at the Biennale is just unlike Sharjah or many other countries, we started a biennale which was much needed to energize to create an ecosystem. We started it very late, but it's very interesting to see what actually Biennale does. I mean, it engages, communities. And if you read any manifestos of any biennial, it always says that, it is to improve the contemporary art practices of the region. So that's again, comes back as another important emphasis. It provokes, new ways of thinking. I mean, from Kochi's perspective, it's been able to kind of contribute that. It allows experimentation to happen. Also, another important thing which you will see in some of the Biennales which is happening in Asian region, they always have a line saying that, to attract international attention. So it's also another important thing to kind of give promises to our contemporary artists to kind of grow, to show their work, scale up. You will also see in our regional context, a word like igniting the youth. It inspires the youth to do art much more liberally, provocatively, and also think about going bigger in scale and all those kind of also some of the countries who are desperate about getting themselves into places, you will see that their approach is also to make a meeting point. For example, some of the interesting studies around Kochi. In fact, recently Dilip Menon, who is a historian, lives in South Africa. He gave a talk in Kochi, and he actually kind of contextualized that Kochi is becoming a site, which has always been, discussed, in different forums. But Kochi is also becoming a site where, the people who had strong relationship already is able to come back, through trade and through other kind of activities. They are able to kind of come back to their own, history. So the Biennale is becoming a site, like Venice and other locations. Kochi is also becoming a site to kind of to celebrate that. And I would say that some of the contributions also been of Kochi, from an artist who believes in political art practice. I think it's been able to emphasize that art can bring social change. So the way Kochi was a kind of a sleeping town. Kochi has, maybe I'll come to that towards the end of, because I want to bring in some arguments about what is possible now. What is the maybe the future of Kochi as a site. So I'm just going into some of the slides. Before that, I'll tell you that how many of the conversations were done with artists. So from the beginning itself, when myself and Bose Krishna Majari curated the first edition, when Jatish curated the second edition, when Sudarshan curated the third edition, the first approach we did was like Homi Baba was saying, the interesting thing is the location. So we were actually trying to kind of share the history of the location. So we always had an agenda that artists should come much prior to the Biennale. They should come, live in Kochi 10, 15 days or a week, understand the location and learn about the city, its heritage, its culture, and contribute a work, and let's commission new projects and let's contribute in making. That's one area actually I want to kind of enter in by giving these introductions, and how Kochi should become a site for knowledge production. So that was one of our major discussion. And we were trying to kind of also equate with what was happening in a country like India. Why we need to kind of bring in new arguments through contemporary art making, that how new dialogues and discourses. Because Kochi has got some fascinating histories. It's got, the Muziris region has got some of the fascinating histories. Because in 2007, Kerala government initiated two important projects which is to be noticed. One is the Pattanam excavation project. Pattanam excavation project, unlike many excavation projects in this country, was not dictated by a certain kind of logic which was applied in all excavation sites, where they will never allow scientific intervention to happen. But Kochi always, for example, people like K.N. Panikkar and many of the historians and scholars they always said, it should be a long process and it should be scientific. You should not allow mythology to kind of come and take over and change all the dialogues around that. So Pattanam Excavation Project became an education site for the government of Kerala to understand what was the history of Kerala, what kind of trade relationship, what kind of business Kerala used to do since last 3,000 years. And at the same time they initiated another project called in 2007 itself, called Muziris Heritage Project, which is again preserving the synagogues, the mosques, the temples, all kinds of religious sites. At the same time, some of the historically important architectural buildings, sites, even cemeteries. Many of the locations are preserved, and if you walk around all those locations, you will see, Kerala is like, if you go to that region, you will see museums in villages. Some of the houses are converted into museums. So it's also important to kind of see that for an artist who was coming to Cochin, could engage with these kind of stories. For example, Anish Kapoor's project, which you will see, was inspired by the idea of Muziris. The way Kochi was, or Muziris was a cultural melting pot. So that he created a work around that. So, and some of the other points, maybe I think we can just start seeing some of the slides. And in the beginning, I'm okay with the time. Yeah, from the beginning itself, I think as artists, I think again I'm going back to the contribution of how it differs when an artist curates or a curator curates. Curator thinks a little bit institutionally. An artist always thinks like with certain notion of experimentation, and it comes from somewhere else. And it has been the story of Kochi Muziris Bienalle. It's been able to kind of produce works in that context. So I just want to kind of rush through, because I think after seeing that film and after giving these kind of diverse perspectives, which brings in maybe much more maybe informations to also provoke you to come and see the next edition. I just want to run through what we did. I'm not categorizing what Jitish did, what Sudarshan did, what Bose and me did. I'm just making a point that, what is the possibility? What's the power of art making? So when you make art at a site which has got a very high value energy, it's a site which could attract in this last 6 years. It could create one of the maybe a best biennial sites in the world. It is not because of the organizers. It is because of the people. It's because of the artists who created works, and it's because of the people, the conversations which happened around that location. So I just want to kind of to maybe run through some of the works, some of the activities which we did. The first argument which we had was that building infrastructure. Infrastructure, as also Samira was mentioning, that it's the biggest problem in this country, because we don't have infrastructure to educate our children about art, take them to kind of museum to kind of show a particular kind of work. We lack in that particular area. So we had a big argument with the government and also the Lalithikal Academy of Kerala, and we took over this building, which is again 150-year-old, and we converted this building into one of the best museum quality exhibition space. In fact, we got the first grant which we got from the government to do the biennial was spent, around 60% of the money was spent on this building. So we wanted to make a statement in Kerala that this is what we need right now. We need to build infrastructure. We need better facilities. In fact, the architect of this particular restoration project was the one who did the Baudaji Art Museum, Vikas Dilawari from Bombay. Also, Radhika Desai was also working along with him. So the way, the interior was changed. We used first time in India the ERCO LED lights for a museum project. And we also got the same exhibition which Baudaji Art did from German Dresden Museum, Eberhard Holocaust, in Cochin. It was the first international museum project. And the government got the message that if you have infrastructure, these kind of museums will come. You know, we were just jokingly telling, like, we'll also bring Van Gogh one day. You know, so if you have, you know, proper infrastructure. So this was the way it was, you know, converted in. This is the first floor. You know, it didn't have exhibition space. I mean, it had only, you know, all these areas, this particular wall which you're seeing, either side, it had walls. You know, it had doors. There were 3 doors in this area, and that side also had 3 doors. There was no exhibition space. It was not a gallery before. You know, it was a darbar, you know, which was used for you know, the other purposes. So we converted the space, and we sent a message across that we are here to kind of build also infrastructure. So the first edition of the Biennale, like, I mean, as you all know, was started on a very important date, I mean, 12. And some of the numbers, I mean, it's interesting to kind of look at some numbers. We had, you know, 89 artists from 23 countries in the first edition. We had 14 venues, and it's interesting to see this particular number, 300,000 square feet exhibition space jumping into 450,000 square feet space. Then the last edition we had, you know, 550,000 square feet space. So we started from 10,000 square feet space in Darbar Hall. That was the only established exhibition space available in Cochin. So we started recycling these warehouses, which was, you know, the empty warehouses, which used to be, you know, the spice godowns. I mean, the spice moves out and art enters. I mean, that's the, you know, the whole story. So Jatish actually, you know, didn't use some of the venues. So the venues in 2014 was a little lesser, and we in fact had many, you know, when me and Bose did, we had many public projects. So the venues were a little bit, and also the first edition we had 69% of the works were produced in Cochin. It continued in different proportions in 2014 and 2016. But, you know, these numbers are very, very interesting according to us. And also the artworks, the number of artworks, you know, 140, 1,400, and the 100 artworks this year. And I would say, you know, some of the international institutions and museums and, you know, Biennales, you know, vouch about, like, I mean, how much they commission and how much they produce every year. I think Kochi has produced at least 250 fresh artworks, you know, with, you know, the contribution which is made for the Biennale under a particular theme and, you know, context. It's one of the biggest contributions since within last 6 years. The amount of art which is produced or made out of Kochi is remarkable. I mean, the amount of artists who's worked on projects like this. So I'm just going through, you know, just to give you one example, how, you know, the Biennale was also a site that could change the perceptions of, you know, of people about what art is. You know, that was one of the biggest contribution of Kochi, I would say, because the 4 lakh visitors who came in the first edition, 70-75% are seeing first time in their life contemporary art. So they've not seen it before. So maybe 25% has come from other regions and, you know, outside India. They have an experience of art. But suppose this boat, which was 85 you know, feet long, changed the perceptions of people. I mean, you know, what is art and how is art making? Is it something which is perishable is art? You know, the many arguments, I mean, you know, there were many other works. And this is, I'll show you 3 works. This is made in 2012. This is same site. It's Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam by N.S.R. Shah. It's a work which is in the same site as this boat. And I just want to jump into, you know, how, you know, a site is used by different curators. This is Sudarshan's work. I mean, this is Rahul Zurita's, you know, Sea of Pain, which is one of the. So I'm just trying to kind of you know, bring your attention into, like, I mean, you know, how do we operate from, like, I mean, you know, a different kind of infrastructure which is available. How a curator is thinking. Rahul Zurita came into Cochin in 2015 December, and after 1 year, you know, he came back, you know, with this work. I mean, because he came and saw the site and he decided, you know, he wanted to do something like this. So this is, and I'll just explain the work maybe in a different slide. This is Anish Kapoor, again, you know, a site-specific work inspired, you know, from the history of Muziris. This is Adrian Pachi's work, and it actually literally reminds you of like, the Arsenale in Venice. These are the, the possibilities. We don't look at, these kind of sites which are available. This used to be a choir go down in Aspinwall House, which is converted into. It's an interesting video project. I'm not actually going into the, the content of the works much because it's a long story, and you can keep talking about, the interesting layers in these kind of works. This was a video installation, and this is this year, the last edition, AES plus F. This is again like, a work which gave an experience that, the world is going upside down. So it was one of the biggest video installations in the, I think many of you must have seen it. This is again another work, The Ghost Keeping by Istvan, and it talks about the Chinese, the intense, the Chinese labor, many layers to it. And it's a workshop of a tailoring workshop, but everything is made out of wood. So it's actually bringing a kind of different kind of statement about making, which also is very much contextual in a very for example, like what kind of capitalist economic tendencies with a state like China does in today's context. There was a work about that. So I'm jumping into another context, is the socio-political intervention of the contribution of the Biennale from the first edition itself. 2012, Amar Kanwar came with this project, The Sovereign Forest, which was one of his popular works which went into document up before. And the way this work interacted with the audience was an amazing story, because it also reminded the local people about the rice seeds which they lost, but it was actually talking about a story about land acquisitions and other things in Orissa. But it became a local story immediately. So the site, the specificity of this particular work was very interesting. Again, this, though it is a work by Santiago Sierra, he was very much interested in showing this work in Kerala, because Kerala was also a place which resisted, the tendencies of capitalism. It resisted industries, it resisted, many things. There is an important statement which one of our, trustee, who is also very much involved in, responsible tourism in Kerala, that red kept Kerala green. He always says that, because it didn't allow industries to come. But in today's context, Kerala survives on tourism and in other economies. This is Madhusudanan's work. Again, another social intervention talks about, it's almost like a blueprint of what has happened to communism in today's world. Madhusudanan, if you have to talk about Madhusudanan, it's interesting. He was somebody who was from the radical movement, who had left art, went into different engagements, went into cinema, he made a film in between. So Bienalle actually brought him back into practice. Now he's become a very, strong practicing artist. This is again another work which is, pyramid. Most of the people have enjoyed this work as because of the context of the work. It is politically very relevant in Indian context. At the same time, what is happening globally. The way, the displacement, happening, and how people have to exhale from their own destination to other location. This is a memorial to the poets in exile. There were many poets' work. Once you walk in, you could actually listen to different kinds of poems which is mixed up inside that walk. It's a dark tunnel, and you have to come out through the other side. This is one side of that. This is another work by Alex Seaton. Again, similar kind of political context. It's a migrant. It's a marble statue. So this is Raul Zurita. Again, I'm just showing the image again. This is a work which talks about the migration which is happening in the world. This was one of the work which I would say the most celebrated in the Biennale, because it was a work which was very interactive, which made you walk in the salt water of the sea, because the water which was filled in this was the sea water, it also reminded, the story of the Syrian boy, the Alan Kurdi's brother Kuldeep, how one of the interesting contexts about this work also, which is illustrated in the poem, that how Raul Zurita was trying to, make a statement through the poem that Alan Kurdi is not my, son, but I am his father. That was the statement which is made through this work in a larger international context. So this is Raul Zurita standing in the work. Just rush through these. I mean, this is another, citations that which you can make with a project like this in Cochin, because these pottery shards which was available from Pattanam excavation site, it was given by as a loan by KCHR. KCHR is the Kerala Council for Historical Research, which does this Pattanam excavation, and they gave it to Vivan, and Vivan created a very interesting work about the flood which happened in Muziris in the 14th century. So the entire video was produced at a site like this. This is another work by Prasad Raghavan, again, taking you into the history of the location. Again, this talks about the Christian history. This was an amazing project by Benita Parciel, who's a Chennai-based artist. Again, Gandhi Dugama, another intervention, like a kind of a dialogue. How look at the way Gandhi is sitting, the way the government, how Gandhi as an individual, defeated a colonizer, or he's trying to kind of connect that the depth of that discourse back to the first colonizer, so it's interesting. How Ghulam brought that kind of a discourse into. This is again another project by P.K. Sadanandan, again going into kind of an interesting mythology which is very famous in Kerala called Paraibetta Pandirukulam. He created a big mural narrating that 12 kulams which still exist in Kerala. So this is another important thing, from the first edition itself we wanted to kind of give a lot of highlight to art should go into the public spaces. There were many locations were chosen. This is Sergio's work. It's a novel. There were 80 walls in Fort Cochin Mattancherry. The novel was written in different locations. So the interesting thing about this work was it actually whoever followed this novel could actually explore the city. That was also another important intention behind the work by the artist. So it's another public art project by Charles Avery. This is a project from Bombay, Samuha project. This is from, I think, I'm just forgetting the location. In Satenagar in Shambhu. There is a group theatre group which works, and their work was brought in to Kochi, and it was exhibited 108 days. There were video performances, there was different kinds of dance performances, theatre performances, which is happening in public spaces here. So then this is another work which is from the last edition, Jitishada edition, public art project. This is from the 12th edition. This is a work by a Portuguese artist, Rigo 23, and he actually created, this is the first work, maybe a kind of very anti-colonial statement by an artist from Portugal, because Kochi was also a Portuguese colony, and he created a work against the atrocities Portuguese did in Cochin. So it was almost like a memorial to the victims. This is Robert Montgomery again, 2012, almost like a large public. It's a fado music. Fado music is something which the poems which you write for the seafarers. The people who struggle in the sea, almost like a lament for them. This is another important project from the first edition, Sanjayan Ghosh's. He worked with different communities which is living in Cochin, Fort Cochin Mattancherry area. The first research project, which was also exhibited in a public space in Cochin Beach. This is another point of view again, the Biennale tried to make that architectural interventions. This is Talur's work. I'm not going into the detail. This is Tony Joseph, which was designed as a pavilion where we did all our performances, talks, film screenings, workshops. This is Anand Joshi from the first edition, which actually a celebration of the Marathi community which has been living in Cochin. They make perfumes. So he created a memorial for them. Again, a very interesting architectural project. This is this year's project, Ivo Schlegel and Karl Prushka. This particular site we used for many kind of workshops for children. This is Adris, Eglis and Katrina. It was again a very interesting architectural intervention project. This is the interior of the work. And the videos are very interesting because the videos are about, people are talking about their own experience about superstitions and their own experience about miracles, so which happened to their life or someone else's life. So this is, as you know, Bijoy Jain. This is again another intervention by the all the three editions have done these kind of interventions very, very well. I mean, the technology is brought in very, very smartly. This is a Mexican artist, Rafael Lorenzo. This is one of the major video artists of our time. I think maybe people say it like one of the fathers of video art, Gary Hill. This was in, you saw this site, Darbar Hall. This is Milapaket. Then this is Yuko Mori. This is a work from this edition. Then another important thing which we did from the beginning with different curatorial approaches. For example, the first edition and second edition, we had culture programs as an intervention. We had many other, layering of different disciplines. Kelly used to curate that separate, so we gave him that responsibility. But this year Sudarshan wanted to kind of take over because Sudarshan's, as an individual is very much interested in, music and, cinema and theater and other things. So he actually made a biennial which, could blur all the boundaries between, different disciplines. So this is Anamika Aska's performance. I mean, it is a very important work where she took, Namdev Dasal's poem, and it was almost like a statement against the atrocities which is happening, the discrimination which happens with the Dalits, and so it was a very important performance project. This is Aki Sasamoto's performance. This is E.P. Unni. I mean, you all know, E.P. Unni is one of the most famous cartoonists of our time. He was in the biennial and he had exhibited his work. At the same time, he also stayed in Cochin and he created, kept on drawing interesting moments. This is a sound project by Kamil Nome, which you also heard the sound in the video when you saw. This is a Swiss artist, Bob Grashma, again a very big concrete casting intervention project. This was, one of the interesting project, again, technology intervention, a virtual reality project by Lundal and Stale, Symphony of a Missing Room, and it was almost like a 20-minute experiential project where the person on the right side is the performer who takes the person who is engaging with the work. This is again another area, the documenting and storytelling. TV Santosh, Sunil Padwal, Abir Karmakar. This is a painting where he actually painted a family home from Gujarat. Then this is a story which we enjoy a lot. I mean, the kind of the audience which attends the biennial. Are we good on time? I don't know. Are we good? I can just run through the programs which the biennial does and then stop the presentation. I think it gets over. So this, I just want to kind of highlight, unlike the other biennials in the world, Kochi actually takes the responsibility of educating people and educating through art or educating about art is one of our key engagements. I don't think, many biennials do it. Some of the biennials don't need to do it. For example, Venice don't need to do, educational projects that in today's time. But Kochi is very much focused on those things. So one of our most successful project is the Students Biennale, which we did, 2014 and also 2016. This year we worked with 100 schools from all across, 56 schools from all across the country. We had 15 curators, and their works were brought in. 465 art students' works were exhibited in Cochin in 6 different venues. It was one of the larger exercises which happened for almost for a year. And also we did many other projects along with that. Educational conferences happened in different locations and different forums. Then workshops were conducted for the students, and many important. These are students from the Environment College from Borivali. They did a project on Kochi, and it was also exhibited as part of the Students' Biennale. And one of the curators exhibiting it, explaining it to E.P. Unni actually. So that's the image. So, and actually Students' Biennale, these are some of the important project needs a lot of explanation, the kind of things which we did, the kind of interventions we are doing, the research which we are doing in all institutions. We're going into, all art institutions and studying the problems. I think one needs to kind of really talk about a lot about Students' Biennale intervention which we are doing, and it is supported by the Tata Trust. They have taken it as a huge responsibility, and also the Raza Foundation supports this. So this is another important project which we changed. This was Children's Biennale. Now we call it ABC, Art by Children. That's the name which we have given. We worked with 100 schools last year. You must be knowing Manu Jose. The people are involved in theatre, and he works with Junoon also. So he was the head of the ABC project, and there were 15 young performers, theatre people, crafts people, artists, sculptors, painters and sculptors were involving in this whole exercise. They went into 100 schools and did workshops, and this is actually on site in Cochin at the time of the Biennale. This is in a school. So they went as a team and did different kinds of workshops, and I think theatre does, the performance does a lot. That's why we appointed Manu, because we didn't appoint a painter or a sculptor. So Manu could actually bring in a different kind of dimension to the project. This is another important project which the Biennale does, the Let's Talk series, and also the History Now conversations. It is a very dedicated program which we do. Also at the time of the non-biennial time, we do it in Cochin and in Ernakulam. We bring in artists and conduct talks. This is something which we document very well. Then Master Practice Studios is an important project where we bring in master artists and conduct workshops for 1 month and 2 months for youngsters to come and study. And this is Pepper House Residency Program, and also the Pepper House Residency exhibition is done by the foundation. This is Pepper House Residency Program site. This is also a very important program which we are doing this year. We are making it international. It has always been international, but from this year onwards we are starting the exchange program. So we are sending our Indian artists abroad, from Kochi into different residency programs. If anybody is interested in, can apply for the Prepare of Residency program. Whether it is any discipline is accepted. So this is another important project which we did, the Kudumbashree workshops. Kudumbashree is one of the interesting initiatives which started by the government of Kerala. With this year, the Biennale started working with this woman, the artists who are part of the Kudumbashree. So then this is Artist Cinema project where we invite curators and regularly, exhibit films. This is again an important project which again supported by the Tata Trust, a special program, Video Lab. All the videos which you're seeing is all done by the team which is in our office. And this is Arts and Medicine. This is a program which happens in General Hospital in Ernakulam. Every Wednesday there's a music concert. So we do this as a community engagement project. This is again a new project which we initiated last year, Music of Muziris, where we are trying to celebrate the legacy of Muziris through bringing international, big musicians and masters, and also the young musicians into it. This is T.M. Krishna. He performed on 27th March in Cochin. Many important projects were there. So this is a very important point to say, the interpretation support corps. I mean, this year we had 12 interpretation guides in Cochin. They actually took around people to see the Biennale. I mean, there were always guides available in Kochi to see the Biennale. So this is Anand Gandhi's project, which we did for a week in Cochin. We showed us, via films. Yeah, come to the conclusion. So we have Anida Dubey, as everybody is looking forward to this next edition, because the Biennale is having first time a woman as a curator. I think Anida is one of the most strongest artists of our time. Very provocative in her works. She in fact has spelled it out. I mean, when she gave few interviews that her project is going to kind of make a very important statement, especially in the area of the way things are marginalized in a country like India. And we are looking forward to kind of have a great project with Anita. She's slowly started her research. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dragon, and it was outstanding, the Biennale. So my question is, earlier you said in the 50s, Nehru gave a boost to art. Maybe today, commerce can give a boost to art, which you touched on. So the potential of tourism and making this maybe like a permanent space for people to come around the year. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think these are some of the areas which I didn't go in, because the support of the government of Kerala is very big for the Biennale, even now. And this year, in the opening ceremony, the Pinarayi Vijayan, the Chief Minister of Kerala, announced that Bienalle will get a permanent venue. So Aspinwall House is something under consideration. And also, you touched upon tourism. Kerala Tourism this year has done all their campaigns with Bienalle as one of their cultural projects. I mean, they have an ad called Live Inspired, which was also a press ad and also television ad. And television ad is very interesting because it's an ad which celebrates the multiculturalism of Kerala. So they're also trying their best, to kind of bring in cultural tourists and also revive the new possibility which Kerala can work on, the cultural economy. The creative economy is a new term which Kerala wants to also work on.
But I was told the Kerala government didn't give their funds for the Biennale this year in time, or not even what they had committed.
Yeah, the government money comes very late. but it comes.
Right to the first Biennale how do you manage such outstanding art making? Right from the beginning. What is the selection process that you use?
I think each curator, whether it was Jitish or Sudarshan or me and Bose, we've given a lot of freedom to the artist. Because it's not like you like a work and just bring it and exhibit it in Cochin. We invite them to Cochin. Come and see. This is the situation. And it was very evident in the first edition because Biennale was actually fresh. The locations were fresh. They never experienced art. The locals were very, very new to all the dialogues which is happening around. So I think unlike, any other projects in India, which is museum, which happens in different locations like museums or galleries, Kochi's invitation itself was to experiment. So that, and artists took that as a challenge. There were less resources, but at the same time there was a lot of energy. There were, with each artist there were 10 to 15, young volunteers working and supporting and making and everything. And it's an amazing scene. The process of art making is, I think, one of the fascinating thing to watch. So that is also one reason, me being an artist or an administrator working with Cochin, what we celebrate is the making of it. The works are of very high quality. And our artists are capable. So we had amazing experiences this year with some young artists. So their works were of very high quality. It is the matter of giving them an opportunity to excel. So it is also to do with, I would say, somebody like Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh. He did a public art project in 2014 edition in Cochin in Vasco da Gama Square. It was one of his largest public art work. And look at his age, and he's coming up with an amazing statement. So it is also about getting, it's nothing to do with the age. It's about getting a great opportunity. And artists are capable. In India especially, I feel, Indian artists' work always excelled in the Biennale. So they contributed. Look at Sunil Podwal's work. He's somebody who just does, completely different kind of work. And in Cochin, he brought in an archive about Bombay. So he spent a lot of time on it. So Abir Karmarkar's work, the painting, which was a site-specific work, this edition. So I think I always feel that it's about the opportunity. So it's, we have the skill, we have the talent. We need to give them time and space.
Any of it is preserved or they are all dismantled?
No, most of the works go back to reproduce, and if it is, something can be preserved, it goes back to the artist. So whatever money spent on the production is, saved by the artist, and it goes back to the artist. Some projects we tried, last year we tried with Gigi Scaria's Bell. We had a conversation with Lalitagala Academy, and Gigi Scaria's work is in Vaikam, in waterfront, as a permanent work. So we do that conversation. Now we are having a conversation with the Cochin Airport with one work by Sadanandan, the mural, which is the Paraibetta Mantrakalam work. So we hope, maybe it becomes a permanent work there. And it's also important, who looks at it. But the other side of the story is very green, because though we are not able to facilitate, many of the work goes into public or into permanent collections. There are works produced in the Biennale, finds collectors, through the other system, the galleries and collectors coming to Cochin, museums buying it directly. For example, Subodh's boat, went directly from Kochi into a gallery, and then it went into a museum. So stories are, quite green for artists.
So you have talked earlier in your previous sort of various contexts, think about your proposal, you talked about how you used to be groups of artists, and then since then you sort of seen the demise of the both of the individual artists. Is it too early to ask if what's happening with Kochi Bienalle? Do you have a sense of a group or something happening? We talk about Bombay Progressive Group, we talk about the various other groups of artists. Do you think Kochi Bienalle is?
I would say Kochi is situated in a unique space where it represents, or Kochi is, I would say the Kochi is fine-tuned many resources, which is much needed in today's time. For example, it is a coming together of a strong political will, a bureaucratic wisdom and artistic passion. So that's how, the Biennale began. So it was not just like, two artists mad about doing a biennial and could make it. We needed the other resources to come. And if you really look at our trust has people who have already contributed, not just into the area of art. They have contributed into the other disciplines which is socially very relevant. So the trust, the Biennale Foundation is a very strong entity. It is not just a group of mad artists. There are people who are who are much more convincing, much more reliable in different ways, intelligent, wise. For example, one of our trustee, who just finished his term, Subhash Chandran, from Bombay, who was 36 years, who was the program director of NCPA. He was one of our trustees. So there was like Harmis Taragan was also term just got over, who was the chief of RAW. So he was somebody who was very much into art. After retirement, he was trying to do things for art, supporting. So we called him to become a trustee. So I'm saying Kochi is not evolved into a group. Kochi has actually created a model, a sustainable model for a project like this, because where we are not excluding anybody. We are bringing people from different disciplines into ACT. We have Anish Kapoor as an advisor. At the same time, we have Shashi Tharoor as one of our advisors. So at the same time, we have Sohan, who is a local, who was an ex-mayor, who's an encyclopedia of Kochi's history, as one of our advisors. So we have created a forum where then we bring in an artist to curate it. So then the discourse is very interesting. So it grows every year with different forms. So I think bringing a new curator is also the way, a very interesting way of functioning. So now we have a CEO appointed. Though it is not a corporate entity, but we have gone for a model where a young CEO is like 140-year-old. So she used to be a journalist, Manju Sararajan. She's come and joined us. She's our administrative supporter. Then we have a CFO from the day one with somebody called Teresa Jaffer. She's our chief finance officer. So it's a structure of the Bienalle Foundation is very strong, I would say, from an artistic perspective, because first edition we had a lot of problems. So they all thought that we are going mad behind the project without actually using the funds properly. But it was not the story. We had less people to narrate the story to people or account it properly. So we cleared that. Within 1 year, we learned all those things. So I would look at Bienalle Foundation not as a political entity or but I would look at it as a need of the time. So you need institutions like that. I might move out maybe next year, but it should run. That's my feeling. So it should run as an institution. My politics is not something which should reflect in in the future of the biennial. Yeah, so.
In your visuals and talking about the representation of the rural artists, it's very, international, sophisticated urban perspectives, but what about the rural perspective? Have you also thought of promoting the rural artists?
See, there was conversations from the beginning to accommodate tribal art, accommodate different kinds of craft into the biennial. But I think it will happen slowly. So last year we had Sadanandan, who is a Kerala muralist, and he stood 108 days and created that work and sent across a big message into people that then theatre performances, Samuha project, Labni, and many other kind of performances came in. Crafters coming in a very different way into the biennial. So we also have looked at it very seriously. So we have actually invited a new trustee into the foundation to learn and maybe improve our approach into look at. We have Rujira Ghosh, who was the director of Craft Museum in Delhi. She is our new trustee. So we are taking those kind of decisions to also accommodate, these kind of arguments into, art. Because Sudarshan actually done it in the last edition. He wanted, the first question which he asked was, what is contemporary? Is it? Yeah. So his traditional art has a capacity to be contemporary today. So he actually used the famous quote of Ratantiyam initially when he was talking about it. Tradition is like a waterfall, which falls into today and splashes. And then he used those narratives very interestingly when he was talking about it. So Sudarshan was very conscious of the fact that in today's context, we need to reassert the story that what is contemporary. So that's why Sadanandan is contemporary. So at the same time, Milapagat is contemporary.
So one last question. As the founder and considering the curation's been going fantastically last 3 editions, what goes into picking a curator and how is that process? What all do you keep in mind? Because whoever decides that. Firstly, how do you decide that? What do you keep in mind in deciding who would take forward and in what method, like what would be the approach to take whatever has been going on forward?
See, we had a 10-member artistic advisory board for selecting Anita Dubey as the curator. The same process was there for Sudarshan and also for Jitish. So that committee is given a brief about foundation's interests. Committee is also given a brief of Bienalle Foundation's mission statement. And when it comes closer, we start sharing names with the committee, and we will give them, these are the important points from our side. But they will also come with names. So then it becomes a very interesting conversation, and that conversation goes on for long. And I would say that with this edition again, the choice was very unanimous, because there was always an argument in the air, it has to be a woman, because all 3 editions it was a men's show, and there's always that argument in there. And though many, if you take even international projects that they have documented and all had a woman curator after many years. So the Kochi took an immediate decision to kind of to bring in a woman curator. So that was one argument, and also the politics which one person represents, what kind of work that artist is doing. It's easy to kind of identify an artist's politics because there are works as evidences. So Anita was very easy to choose because her works are very political. She speaks, so that, I would say in today's context, her choice, at a time like, most of the artists are, either domesticated or, either, in a very different atmosphere. Anita is very radical. She's single. And there are a lot of things which I personally, I cherish as she coming on board. So she's a strong person, and I would say in today's India, a woman, single, strong, curating, coming from UP, and it's very interesting. When I look at her, choice made by the Artistic Advisory Board, she includes me and Bose and another person from our trust, Sunil. Then we had, I can tell the names. I think we had Paris Vishwanathan, we had Dayanita Singh, we had Paris Vishwanathan, I said, Dayanita Singh, just forgetting the names,